The badge said visitor. It was laminated, white, with a thin blue border and the hospital's maple leaf logo in the corner. Audrey Osi-Mensah had been given one at the front desk, along with a brittle smile from the receptionist, who didn't look up when she slid it across the counter. Audrey clipped it to her lapel without a word. She had learned, over 58 years of being in rooms where people assumed she did not belong, that some battles were not worth choosing before the one that mattered. She was there for her daughter, Camille. Camille, who had called that morning, sounding like she was trying very hard not to sound frightened. Camille, who was a registered nurse on the 7th floor cardiac unit at Ridgeline General Hospital in Ottawa, and who had been pulled aside by security during a staff meeting for reasons that had not yet been explained to anyone's satisfaction. Audrey took the elevator. She had dressed simply that morning, a charcoal blazer over a cream blouse, dark slacks, low heels, nothing that announced anything. She carried a leather folio she had bought in Montreal 20 years ago that had softened so perfectly with age it looked like it had always been part of her hand. No rings except her late mother's gold band on her right hand. Small oval face, close-cropped silver hair, the kind of posture that came not from arrogance, but from decades of standing in front of rooms that didn't expect her. The elevator opened on 7. She stepped out. The corridor was quiet in the way hospital corridors are always quiet. Not peaceful, but held. A kind of controlled holding of breath. 2 nurses crossed the hall ahead without looking at her. A porter wheeled a cart of linen around a corner. Audrey checked the signage and turned left toward the staff wing. She heard the voices before she saw the room, not shouting. Worse than shouting, actually. That clipped bureaucratic tone that men sometimes use when they want to sound measured while doing something that is not measured at all. I'm going to need you to wait here until we've confirmed your credentials. I've already shown you my ID. I've shown you my hospital badge. I've been working here for... Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to lower your voice. Audrey stopped at the doorway. The room was a small staff lounge, round table, a few chairs, a counter with a coffee maker that had been left on too long judging by the smell. Her daughter was standing near the window. Camille Osi-Mensah, 32 years old, still in her scrubs, her hospital badge hanging from its clip on her chest, her lanyard twisted slightly from what looked like someone having grabbed it. She was very still. The kind of still that Audrey recognized from when Camille was 7 years old and had decided that she would not cry in front of a classroom of children who had laughed at her, and she hadn't. Standing between Camille and the door was a security officer named, according to his own badge, D. Hartwell. He was broad, mid-40s, with the particular confidence of someone who had never had his authority questioned in a way that cost him anything. Beside him, slightly behind, stood a younger officer, early 20s, dark uniform, uncomfortable in his own skin, in the way that people are when they know something is wrong, but have not yet decided what to do about it. Hartwell turned when Audrey stepped into the doorway. "This is a staff-only area," he said. "I know," Audrey said. "I'm looking for my daughter." She said it simply. She didn't look at Hartwell when she said it. She looked at Camille. Camille looked back at her, and something in her face that held stillness shifted very slightly, not breaking, just acknowledging. "Who let you up here?" Hartwell said. "The elevator," Audrey said. Hartwell took a step toward her. "I'm going to need you to come with me back to the... What's the reason she's being held?" Hartwell stopped. "Excuse me? My daughter?" Audrey nodded toward Camille. "She's a registered nurse on this unit. She has her badge. She has her ID. What's the specific reason she's being held in this room?" There was a pause that lasted exactly long enough for it to mean something. "There was a report," Hartwell said, "from a patient on 6. Said they saw someone matching her description in an area they shouldn't have been. Which area? I'm not at liberty to. What time?" Hartwell's jaw tightened. 7:45. Camille spoke for the first time since her mother had walked in. Her voice was level. "I was in handover at 7:45. There are 9 people who can confirm that." Hartwell didn't look at her. He kept looking at Audrey, which was a different kind of telling. "We're just doing our due diligence," he said. "You pulled her badge from her chest," Audrey said. Her lanyard is twisted. You grabbed it." That's not due diligence. That's something else. The younger officer, the uncomfortable one, shifted his weight. His name tag said Beaumont. He was looking at the floor with the expression of someone who had been hoping not to be noticed and had begun to suspect that was no longer possible. Audrey walked past Hartwell, and he let her, which surprised him slightly. She went to Camille and looked at her daughter the way mothers look at their children when they're checking the damage before they're ready to show they're checking it. "You okay?" she said quietly. "Yes," Camille said, also quietly. "He's been in here for 40 minutes, Mum." Audrey turned back around. There is a thing that happens sometimes, not often, but sometimes, in a confrontation between two people where one of them suddenly becomes aware that they have badly misjudged the situation. It's not a loud thing. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives like a change in air pressure. Hartwell was beginning to feel it, though he didn't know why yet. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor," Audrey said. "My supervisor is your supervisor's name, please. Chief of Security is Murray Fenchurch, but he's, and above him." Hartwell blinked. "Pardon? Above the Chief of Security? Who does he report to?" "That would be the hospital's VP of Operations, but I don't see what that has to. And the Chief of Medicine?" Hartwell looked at her with an expression that had started as impatience and was traveling somewhere else. "Look, I don't know who you think you are, but my name," Audrey said, "is Dr. Audrey Osi-Mensah." She said it the way you say something that doesn't need to be said loudly to be heard. "I'm the Chief of Cardiology." The room went very still, not the held breath kind of still from before, a different kind, the kind that happens when a room full of people simultaneously recompute something. Beaumont, the younger officer, looked up from the floor. Hartwell's face did something complicated. A kind of internal reorganization was happening behind his eyes that he had no idea was visible to everyone in the room. "I've been at this hospital for 19 years, Audrey continued. Her voice had not changed pitch. It had not gotten colder or sharper. It remained exactly what it had been, measured, quiet, clear. "I held my department head interview in the room 2 floors above this one. I have walked this unit at 7 in the morning and 11 at night. I have eaten lunch in this lounge more times than I can count. And my daughter, who has worked on this floor for 3 years, whose name is on the staff board at the end of that hallway, has been held in this room for 40 minutes because of a vague report that no one has been able to substantiate." Hartwell opened his mouth. Audrey did not raise her hand. She didn't need to. "I want the name of the patient who made the report. I want the time the report was logged, the name of the person who logged it, and the specific area my daughter was allegedly seen in. I want those things in writing, and I want to know why, when my daughter showed her hospital badge and her ID, she was not immediately released to return to her patients." Silence. Beaumont, the younger officer, spoke. His voice was not steady, but he spoke anyway, which cost something. "She did show her badge," he said. "Right away. First thing. She showed it before he even asked." Hartwell turned to look at him. Beaumont looked back at him. He was 23 years old, and his hands were shaking slightly. He looked like a man making a decision he knew was going to cost him something, making it anyway. "She showed her badge and her ID," Beaumont said again. "There was no reason to keep her here." That hung in the air for a moment. Audrey looked at Beaumont for a long moment, not with warmth exactly, because warmth was not what the situation called for, but with the kind of recognition that one person gives another when they have done something genuinely difficult and genuinely right. "Thank you," she said. She said it simply. It landed. Hartwell was escorted to Fenchurch's office 20 minutes later. Audrey did not attend that meeting. She had patients of her own and a department to run, and a daughter who needed 10 minutes in a quiet corridor to let herself feel what she'd been holding for 40 minutes. They stood outside the stairwell door at the end of the hall. The afternoon light came through the small window in long angles and caught the gold of the ring on Audrey's right hand. "You didn't tell me you were coming," Camille said. "You didn't ask me not to." Camille was quiet for a moment. "Did you know when you walked in? Did you know what you were going to do?" "I knew what I wasn't going to do," Audrey said. "I wasn't going to leave you in that room." Camille looked at the ring on her mother's hand. their grandmother's ring. Constance Osi-Mensah, who had worked 2 jobs for 11 years to put Audrey through medical school, who had pressed the ring into Audrey's hand in a hospital bed, not unlike the ones 2 floors below them, who had said, "You earned this, my darling. Now go make sure the next one doesn't have to fight as hard." Camille had heard that story so many times she sometimes forgot it was true. "The system shouldn't need you," Camille said finally. "I should have been able to walk back to my patients without you having to walk through that door." Audrey looked at her daughter for a long moment. "No," she said. "You're right. You should have." That was all. No softening it. No explaining it away. Just, "You're right." Because Camille was right and Audrey knew it, and the most dishonest thing a mother can do sometimes is to make the true things sound smaller than they are. What happened in the weeks after was documented, institutional, the kind of quiet reckoning that hospitals undergo when something has gone visibly wrong in front of someone with the standing to make it visible to the right people. D. Hartwell was reassigned pending review. That review found, among other things, that in 14 months he had worked at Ridgeline General 4 of the 5 incidents in which he had detained a staff member for badge verification had involved staff members who were black. The 5th involved a man who was dark-complected and South Asian. The report used the phrase pattern of selective enforcement. It was not a comfortable phrase for anyone who had to sign their name beside it. Murray Fenchurch, the chief of security, wrote a memo. The memo was fine, as memos go. It used the word regrettable several times. Audrey did not attend the review. She had been asked to, and she had sent a letter instead, 2 paragraphs, that said the relevant facts clearly and without embellishment, and recommended that the hospital examine not only this incident, but the incidents preceding it, and that she would be happy to speak further should it be warranted. It was warranted. What came out of those conversations, slower, more contested, more real than a memo, was a policy change, not a dramatic one, not a press release, but a genuine change. Staff at Ridgeline General would no longer be subject to secondary badge verification based on anonymous patient reports alone. A corroborating factor, camera footage, a supervisor confirmation, a second staff witness, was required before any staff member could be detained. The policy was ratified by the hospital board in a meeting that took 40 minutes and was attended by 11 people, most of whom had known for some time that something like this was needed. It was named, informally, after nothing. Policies rarely get named after the people who caused them to exist, which is a strange habit of institutions. To acknowledge the wound without quite acknowledging the wound. Camille returned to her unit the afternoon of the incident and finished her shift. She checked on the patients she had left when Hartwell walked her to the lounge. She charted. She answered a question from a first-year nursing student about medication timing. She stayed 20 minutes past the end of her shift because there was a patient on 6 who was anxious about an early morning procedure, and sometimes all an anxious patient needs is someone who will sit in the chair beside the bed and not be in a hurry. She was good at that. She had learned it, partly, from watching her mother. Beaumont requested a transfer 4 months later to a different unit. He got it. He had been quiet in the weeks after the incident, and the people who knew him said he seemed different. Not worse, exactly, but changed in the way that people are changed when they do something that costs them something and find out they can survive the cost. He ran into Camille once in the main atrium, near the coffee kiosk on the ground floor. It was a Thursday morning in November. Camille was in her coat, carrying a travel mug. They looked at each other for a moment. "How are you doing?" Camille asked. "Good," he said. Then, honestly, "Better." She nodded. "Good." She walked to her elevator. He walked to his. That was all. Sometimes that is enough. Audrey Osi-Mensah drives to work the same way she has for 19 years. Through the glebe, over the bridge, left on Riverside, the river brown-gray in autumn and white-edged in winter, and the particular green in spring that only exists in Ottawa, that exact shade, that exact light. She parks in the same spot, walks the same corridor, takes the same elevator to 7. She has always liked to walk the cardiac unit before her office, before the day starts in earnest, to see what the night has left. She still wears her mother's ring. She does not think of herself as someone who changed anything. She is aware, in the way that careful people are aware, that what she did was only possible because of who she was, and that this is the problem, not the solution. That her daughter should not have needed her. That the next nurse, in the next room, in the next incident, the one without a mother who has 19 years and a chief title and the particular knowledge of how to stand in a doorway, that person is still waiting for something to change. Audrey thinks about her often. She doesn't know her name. She doesn't need to. She knows what she looks like someone who showed her badge and her ID, first thing, before she was even asked, and was kept in a room anyway. She thinks, that should not be the story. She thinks we haven't finished yet.